See how everybody's doing this morning. This video.
I don't see.
Huh. Here we go.
I don't see.
There we go. Well, that was odd.
That was weird.
But we came back.
Yeah.
So we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. Why did you stop that?
Well, I don't know. Now can we hear us?
No, like
Why did you stop that?
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Now can we hear us?
I think we're on a little bit of a delay.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear us.
Well, okay. All
yeah.
Right, yeah.
So,
but you know what's weird, Julie, is I can't find that little, like, you know how normally it says Book of Hours? And
yeah.
there's like a circle.
You can't hear us.
Well, okay. There it is. Okay. All right. There we go. There we go.
Weird, Julie, is I can't find that little, like, you know how normally it says Book of Hours?
Yeah.
Like a circle.
Okay. So sorry.
All right. There we go.
Okay. So
make sure that we're on.
We're on the right satellite. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know why it sounds the way it does.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit odd. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are officially starting our broadcast together.
Yeah.
And it is audio only because we are in the middle of a big move.
Yeah. And putting up with the audio test shit. Right, you know, like mic test.
Yeah. So hello, Sean, how do we get rid of this so that I can text? How do we get rid of it?
Oh, it's here, hang on a second. Okay, put chat back on. You need to have that stuff. Just open the window up more.
Oh, I see.
See, it's just too small.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, you can type. Just say hello.
Okay, I just moved the mic and made a big noise. Sorry.
That's okay. Sorry about that, guys. So we're in the middle of a big move, so things are a little scattered, and we want to just thank you for joining today. We want to extend a special hello to our Rockfin members and our patrons.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank you for your continued support. And we hope that the patrons have enjoyed the script that we shared.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we mentioned in the description of this audio broadcast that we were going to talk a little bit about the latest video essay that's coming. Let's start with that and get warmed up.
Yeah, okay.
So that we can, because we talk about what we know first, and we can stumble into some of these other subjects that we talked about. But let's warm up with that first.
Okay, so we've been talking about this, and because we're in the middle of a move, it's probably not going to happen for a little while. And that's not because we don't have our equipment set up. We do. I was talking to Julie about this morning. It's like I work a full-time job, and we're moving, and we're setting up a new house. Like, what is it, 1,000 miles away from where we live? So it's
a 24-hour drive, and we can only do it on the weekends.
And we're monitoring contractors and installers from
1,000 miles away.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with that, and not that we're complaining or anything, but it's just it's taking a toll on our energy and our emotions and our Well, I woke up exhausted, and you were saying to me earlier, like, you look sad, and I'm like, I'm not sad, I'm just tired.
Just really tired because he's doing all this work.
Yeah, physical work. The other thing about the AI thing is I plan to use the tools that are out there to make AI, imagery and video and stuff, to illustrate the video. So that's something we've talked about before. But something Julie mentioned is that we made the script available to our patrons. So if you're a patron or you've already been able to read the script if you'd like, it's
10 pages.
Yeah, so that translates into about a half hour, 40 minutes of video.
I would say longer than that because of all the pauses and then all of the, the music will fill up those spaces. Like you can't just throw out 10 pages of script and then assume that it's going to be captured into a 30-minute video.
Right.
That means we would have to talk like this really, really fast and we would never have any breaks. Yeah. That's not the way video essays are done. It's going to be over an hour.
I don't think it'll be over an hour, maybe 45 minutes, but it will, because this time we're going to have control over the length of the videos that we're producing as clips, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas normally we're at the mercy of clip videos that are free and already exist and
pre-made,
right? Yeah. And copyright free and all that. So,
so you want to create your own AI? Is that what you're saying?
AI imagery, yeah. So that's what we're planning to do. And so, what better way to talk about AI than to use the tools that are out there, like all these generative AI tools that are available now. Those things cost money.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to.
We don't have a lot of.
Right now, we're kind of like, our cash flow is kind of.
I literally had to tell JP like we can't buy as many groceries this week. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's how strapped we are for cash.
At the Aldi of all places.
At Aldi, right? Because we are managing 2 households, and until we can remove ourselves from one household and simply live in the other one, then we won't have to extend all of our expenses out to 2 households. Well, this is insane.
That's 2 sets of bills, basically.
2 sets of taxes, 2 sets of utilities, 2 sets of bills,
insurance,
and all that. So it needs to
end soon.
Simplify and end soon. Yeah. So it's taking all of our time and energy. The only time that we really have to move is on the weekends. And it used to be that the weekends were dedicated solely to projects, whether it was gardening projects or video essay projects. And now our weekends are dedicated to moving. Mm-hmm. But because we want to make sure that our viewers, our patrons, our funders, our donators, our donors,
people who
follow us and continue to email us and show appreciation for our thoughts and our time, we thought this would be, because we're feeling a little tired from doing so much work, so much physical work, we thought, well, let's relax in front of the microphone and have a conversation.
Now most people would not consider that a relaxing thing, but
yeah, because oftentimes when I talk to people on the phone and I listen to like their problems or I listen to their issues or their situation, and then I invest in them and I invest in the information that's being provided to me, I feel exhausted afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a different thing than
and that's similar to podcasting too, is you're absorbing all of the stuff that's coming from other podcasters, you're absorbing the stuff that's coming from social media and the media, and then you're giving back, your interpretation of it. Mm-hmm. And it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. I know podcasters that do it early in the morning, like 7 a.m., Pacific time, which is 10 a.m. East Coast time, so that when they're done, they can go take a nap and recover
and still have a day from
podcasting and still have a day.
Well, I watch a podcast. It's a guitar podcast. So they review products, and they talk about whatever, right?
You might want to speak closer.
Do I want to speak closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I not picking up? Okay. So anyway, the one video started out with the guy saying, because they start out their videos where there's some loose exchange before they actually start the video. Sort of like what we did. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I can't believe I've sat in this chair for 4 hours now.
Wow.
So clearly they record a number of their videos at once and then do the editing after, and then put them out, over a period of time. Right. So, that's one way of doing it. We do it a little more, ad hoc, I think.
Right. I also think that in general, like the what I'm learning emotionally and physically mostly through watching you and your response to like the move and how challenging it is to manage 2 households.
How's this? Is this close enough?
Get a little closer. Don't be shy. Thanks, Sean. So one thing I'm learning by watching you and, just sort of, what we're experiencing, like, it's okay to not be Superman. Like, it's okay to not have to. It's okay. Like, if you write out a list, we live by lists, people. I don't know about you guys, but
I've always been a list maker.
we live by list making. And so if not everything gets accomplished on the list, it's really not the end of the
It
world.
gets carried over to the next list.
Yeah. So it's okay. So I think that because we woke up this morning and we were like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to take shelving off the wall and we're going to pack more boxes and we're going to do all this stuff. And then I just saw how tired he looked. And I was like, why don't we do a podcast? Why don't we sit down, have some cold water, relax a little. I'm feeling a little dizzy for some reason. So I'm not going to be much help anyway. So let's just chill for a minute.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're doing. And we thought, we did go and see the Barbie movie Friday night, which was great. And so we want to talk about that. And we also want to talk about our interpretation and our opinion of the larger discussion around the Trump indictment. So I think all these things are really important.
Right. And so I first I want to do a shout out for just list making and the reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you get things accomplished because you don't have to keep it all in your brain.
Right.
Right.
It's impossible to keep everything in your brain.
So it allows you to like take that out of your mind, put it on a piece of paper, and then you can just refer to it. And it's so satisfying to cross off.
It is. Like, it's one of the most satisfying. I sometimes I'll do things and then I'll finish the task. And then I'll be like, oh, it wasn't on the list. So I'll write it on the list and then cross it off.
Oh, yeah.
Just so that I can feel like I did something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I put on pants today.
Yeah, exactly. I'm helping. I put on pants today. I love that one. And the other thing about it, too, is I keep it. I don't just have loose pages of lists. Sometimes we do, like shopping lists and things like that, right? And then you just toss those. I like to keep it in a book because then I can, see over a period of time, even if I don't go back to it and read every line, right? I can see that I did something that particular day on that date,
right.
And it's just a reference. So it makes me feel it's a more meta feeling of accomplishment,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So
I also like throwing things away. I feel like, what's that woman? It does not spark joy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't remember her name, but that Asian woman. Yeah.
I love throwing things away.
I don't. I'm not a hoarder, but I also have a hard time.
So her name is Marie Kondo.
Yeah.
And she became famous quite a few years ago. And I think it's like a behavioral modification program in order to get us to be, in order to make us more open to sort of like a prison life where we had very few things. And so she's like, see this? Does it spark joy? No, throw it away.
Right.
And so, but no, seriously, I have a lot of stuff. And so I'm like, I'm feeling very good about this idea about removing it, from my life and just giving it away to other people.
Exactly. And I've got probably a carload at least, if not more, of stuff that we're going to take to the local.
The local,
whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever one is not corrupt, whether it's, right. I don't think we're going to take it to Salvation Army. Maybe Goodwill. If anyone wants to,
not Goodwill.
Not Goodwill.
Last place. I mean, that's a for-profit entity.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's this one that I took all our stuff to about a year ago.
Yeah.
When we were trying to clean out, and it's a local one. It's veteran oriented, but I don't know how that is exactly. But it's considered the best gift shop in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
And it's not in Pittsburgh; it's in Carnegie.
Yeah. Oh, it's not in Pittsburgh; it's in Carnegie. But Carnegie is like a small.
It's a town
outside of Pittsburgh. Yeah. It's kind of nice. It's not too bougie, but it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I want to talk about one experience that I had, and then we can move into I think that this experience that I had on Thursday
Oh, yeah, please talk about that.
will be a nice segue into Barbie, and then we can end the show with the indictment.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So on Thursday, I had to go to the orthodontist. I'm having like ongoing orthodontic issues and some dental issues that have just been going on basically since 2019, but really it's been going on since like the year 2000. So whatever, it's just part of life. So I go to the orthodontics and I'm frustrated because I don't feel like I'm getting what I want, right? I'm spending a lot of money because all of it's out of pocket. The insurance doesn't cover any of it. So it's really, really expensive. And I don't feel like I'm getting what I want. So I sent an email to the orthodontist, and I sent an email to the dentist as well. And the orthodontics office is really interesting. It's run by all women. She's considered the best orthodontist in the Pittsburgh area. She's incredibly nice, like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Really down to earth, and ultimately at the end of my appointment with her on Thursday, she said, "No, I'm glad you sent the email. Women have to stick together. A lot of times women feel that they are in the way, they're not heard, and that they should just, be silent and kind of suffer through." So, as you can see in this office, which is, 99% women, they have one man, and there's probably about 40 staff members. They're all women except for one guy who sits at the front desk with another woman, right? So this is a very woman empowered office. Women, they all have their roles, and it's run incredibly well. The staff are really nice, but I was feeling like I wasn't getting exactly what I needed for my investment. Orthodontics is considered like elective, so insurance won't cover it. It's considered like, maybe even cosmetic. So it's definitely insurance won't cover it. So, but this wasn't a cosmetic issue. And I'll just tell you what the issue is, guys. After the rollout of the gene modification program, otherwise known as the COVID vaccines, there has been a huge rise in dental issues. And so the dental issue in life in general is something that no one wants to talk about. For instance, my colorist, okay, 3 times a year I go and get highlights. Ooh, big deal, right? I have blonde hair, but I get it accented. How's that? So she goes in, I go into her, and I've known her for quite a few years. She tells me out of nowhere that her twice vaccinated husband, out of nowhere, his teeth just started falling out of his head. And so as I learn more and more and more about the damages that this gene modification program has caused in the human body, I'm learning that there's a whole section of side effects that no one's talking about because they're too embarrassed to talk about. And that's the dental issue where teeth are falling out of the head.
Well, and I think also that there's people are unable to make the correlation between the two.
Right.
Just like the husband of your stylist.
Right.
They're clueless.
They are completely clueless about, you thought you heard an accent. What do you mean by that?
I'm so sure. You're talking about like our California accent.
Which accent are you talking about? Because I have like a few going on. I've got a California accent, a San Francisco accent, and then a Southern accent, because I never picked up the Pittsburgh accent, thank God. But so, and then I also have a Midwestern accent too because of all my time in Chicago.
Well, I think our Haas is one of the nicest.
Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that after the rollout of the COVID gene modification program, bioweapon, people were experiencing a lot of dental issues. My own dentist has said over and over again to me, I've never seen more dental problems than I've seen since like 2021. My orthodontist is busier than ever because people's teeth, when you lose the bone in your mouth, your teeth start to spread apart and they start to splay out and do weird things because they're about ready to fall out of your head. So immediately I noticed that there was some spacing going on in my teeth that I'd never seen before. I had never had braces. My teeth were always perfectly straight. And all of a sudden I noticed that they were starting to show some spacing in areas. And so he immediately sent me over to the best orthodontist in Pittsburgh. And now my teeth are straight again. And she is just like thrilled to the moon. Like my last appointment with her was on Thursday, and she's like, "This is amazing. This is great. You've been doing this since February. It's really working out." And
let's give credit to the real reason.
The real reason is that I started a bone growth system, including strontium, which is made from algae. Now, I had a friend of mine jump in and say, "Oh, wait a minute, isn't strontium really toxic?" So sadly, I was influenced by my friend, and I threw away this really expensive bottle of strontium, which was derived from algae, which was a mistake.
Not radioactive,
which was a mistake. So I then started the process again. So that was an expensive mistake I made.
And I want to shout out to our friend who gave you black walnut.
Right. And then so black walnut, you swish with black walnut. Now JP swallows it. I have a hard time swallowing it. It's really caustic, the idea of swallowing it is really hard for me. But so Bridget, our good friend in the South, she is, an herbalist and all this. Yeah. And so she really stressed that black walnut is really important for the health of your gums. So since I discovered the spacing in between my teeth after being around so many people who had decided to inject themselves with a bioweapon, and all of a sudden after that I started seeing space in my teeth, I started the process of building up my bones and making sure that whatever that bioweapon or the remnants of it were doing to me could be counteracted through, vitamin D3 with K, magnesium, calcium. Like I went nuts. Strontium, algae-based strontium, as well as swishing with black walnut like a few times a week before you brush your teeth. You want to do it before you brush your teeth because black walnut will stain your teeth.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. And so since you didn't get the shot,
I didn't. Right.
How do you think that you got this situation?
I think that I experienced all of the health problems that I've had over the last 2 or 3 years, which hasn't been very much. But the spacing between my teeth, the inversion of my lungs at one point where I literally thought I was going to die, where it felt like I had swallowed some kind of toxic sludge. Mm-hmm. This came right after I did a water aerobics class with a bunch of women who had literally just come from getting vaccinated. In fact, they were showing each other their Band-Aids on their arms. They were super, excited. They were congratulating themselves. And as I continued to do the water aerobics class over time, I noticed that these women weren't around anymore. Mm-hmm. And that the one woman who they were really congratulating, her legs, she's probably going to have to get her legs amputated. Wow. They're full of blood clots.
Wow.
I saw that visually. So I think
transference or whatever.
Right. So I think it was transmission from whatever they took, and it came onto me. Yeah, and water
is a conductor.
Yeah, water will conduct energy.
And I was swimming at a YMCA next in a lane next to a woman who clearly believed the lies because she wore a mask right up to the edge of the water. Before she got in the pool, she was wearing a mask. And I was in the next lane over, and a day or two after that exposure to her, I fell down flat in the kitchen.
Like all those videos you've seen over the last couple of years. So we've talked about this before. We have,
yeah. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah. So you can't just walk around life when you're under attack without proper armor. First of all, you need emotional armor. You need people who will listen to you. And so when I was going back to this orthodontist and saying, regarding my orthodontics treatment, I'm happy with my orthodontics treatment, but this parallel treatment that I'm having with my dentist, I'm not happy about. And I feel that it's included in the orthodontics treatment. We need to have a more like involved discussion about this. I need to feel heard. I'm spending a lot of money on this, so I deserve to feel heard. And she agreed with me and said, let's create a plan of action. I'm going to reach out to your dentist today. You're going to see him on Monday. Let's figure something out together. You deserve to feel heard. You deserve to be respected. Thank you. And I hope I didn't ever make you feel like I was rushing you through the process, taking advantage of you, whatever. These were like really open, honest conversations that were respectful of where we were emotionally, where we were mentally. I deferred to her as the professional because she's the one that has, the education and the experience about orthodontics. I don't.
Mhm.
So I had to defer to her. She took new x-rays, saw new bone growth, saw that my bite is really good, saw that my teeth are really straight, and that the retainers have been working. So I walked out of that appointment on Thursday feeling pretty good. I felt pretty good. I also felt pretty good because for the first few months of my treatment with this orthodontics office, I was spending a lot of money to take a lift out there, not realizing how easy it is to just take the train.
Right.
Like you just take a bus downtown, you walk a block, you get on the train. It's a 20-minute train ride, and it's just up the hill from the train.
No, a bus goes out there too, but it takes a long time.
But the bus takes like an hour and a half, and it only
Right.
comes like every other hour.
And
or
you were
something.
concerned with the position of the train station in regard to like
To
where
where
the
the
office was. So,
right. And it
so you
turns
were
out
you were afraid of taking it for a while there because you were afraid it was too far away or it was too high of a
of
hill.
a still too
Yeah.
high of a grade, of a steep grade,
Right.
and all this. But it turned out it's fine. So I did that a couple times, and so I'm feeling pretty good. I walk back to the train station. I get on the train. I'm getting ready to have my little train ride back downtown, and I gave myself $20 to go to the farmer's market so that I could get maybe some fresh produce or something. And there was a woman on the train who did not look like a Pittsburgher. Now, I can't
Describe.
I don't know how to describe that to you. I'm a Californian. I live in Pittsburgh, and all I can say is that this woman didn't look like a Pittsburgher. She didn't have much in her on her person. Like it's not like she was wearing a big purse. She had like a little bag, and she was gripping a piece of paper and really looking at it like trying to figure out this piece of paper. And she looked at me and she said, "I like your shoes." And I explained to her that they're, really comfortable shoes made for walking and what they're made of, and that they're really waterproof. Probably too much information. And she's like, "Oh, well, I just like the color. I love that color green." And so we started talking in general on the train. And I noticed she also had a broken arm. So I said, "What happened to your arm? How did you break your arm?" And she said it was because of a domestic dispute. Her boyfriend broke her arm. And so I said, of course, the look of shock and horror on my face. And as the story started to unfold, I listened more and more to the circumstances that led up to her boyfriend breaking her arm. And it was simply tragic. She had literally just come from another state. I think she said it was Texas. They were moving there together.
Yeah, Houston, I think you
Yeah,
said.
moving to Pittsburgh together with his children, not hers. And the more she talked, the more it sounded like the boyfriend was just like using her as kind of like a babysitter or a nanny, and that he was done with her. And so instead of just having an appropriate breakup and saying, maybe don't move with me to Pittsburgh or whatever, he decided to get violent and break her arm. And she was very well spoken, just as well spoken as I am with you right now. It's not like I was dealing with like a crack addict or, or
right.
anybody who was so traumatized that they couldn't find their voice.
Right.
This person was incredibly articulate. And she explained that she hadn't even been to the apartment yet, that she signed a lease with her boyfriend, that her first experience with Pittsburgh was in jail, and that she had to go to a shelter. And I immediately took the $20 out of my pocket and gave it to her. And then I had earlier that day, before my orthodontics appointment, I had taken myself out to breakfast, and I bought 3 of these really super healthy juices with no sugar. They're made from kale and spinach and apples and beets, and they basically taste like drinking a garden. And there's a few Pittsburgh juice companies that are really, really good. And this one particular cafe that I like to go to every once in a while to have breakfast sells these juices. And so I immediately pulled one of my healthiest juices out of my bag and just gave it to her. And so I gave her $20. I gave her my juice. I gave her a hug. I gave her my phone number. I walked her to the bus that she had to take. She'd never even been on a Pittsburgh bus before. She had never even, like, she didn't even know like where she was or what she was doing. She was completely lost. Me too, Sean. I am so done with psychopathic, narcissistic sociopaths. I'm done with it.
We can talk about another one of those people towards the end. We heard an interview with one. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
an interview with
a narcissistic psychopath. I'll get to it in a minute. Go ahead and finish with your story.
Oh, the guy from Tucker.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. We can talk about that a little bit.
Okay, too. So I took her to her bus. She goes, I need to take the 38. Do you know what that is? I said, yep, I know exactly where that is. It's right in front of this Rite Aid over here. And I walked with her to the bus and I said, I can take the bus with you. In fact, let me get on the bus with you. At which point she was like, well, I've already been told by the police because my boyfriend who broke my arm put a restraining order on me. So I've already been told by the police that it would probably benefit me better to be alone. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but I did give her my phone number and I said, call me. If you're somewhere stranded, we now have a car. Mm-hmm. We can pick you up. Where your apartment is not far from where our house is. We can take you where you need to go. We have plenty of food we can share with you. Like,
yeah,
I was just like making myself really, really available to her.
Yeah. Mutual aid, right?
Mutual aid, exactly. Right. Like this person had never even been to Pittsburgh before, and her very first experience was for her boyfriend to break her arm, put a restraining order on her, not even let her set foot in her own home that she signed a lease for. And she's trying to sign up to go to school to be a therapist, like a massage therapist. Like a massage therapist.
Gee, what do you need your arm for?
What do you need your arm for? Like, he was doing everything he could to sabotage her life. And so, I mean, there's a metaphor right there, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I was trying to say is I walked out of my
An empowering moment.
orthodontist appointment where this wonderful orthodontist who has a team full of strong, well-meaning, incredibly intelligent, women who said to me, you are heard. I see your investment in this. I want to make sure that you're getting the most out of this experience. I'm pleased with your results. Go forth and be happy. Go forth and be and be confident in your, in your decisions. And so I decided to give this woman my last 20. Are you serious?
Fireworks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fireworks are going off.
Not gunshots. They're fireworks.
So I decided to give this woman my last $20 and a very expensive bottle of, pure organic juice, because it's the healthiest thing that you can have for your body when you're going through trauma is to fill it up with, healthy fruits and vegetables. Yeah, right, Sean? Let me at him. I'll make him a victim. Yeah. So seriously, and he was able to successfully get the restraining order on her.
Right, which is twisted,
insane.
Right. She's the one with the broken arm.
And she has the broken arm, and she's like not much taller than me.
You should be going after the cops, right? The cops are the ones that are responsible for that shit. Because they will go with the perpetrator every fucking time in that kind of situation.
Yeah. Cops hate domestic disputes because they always feel that if they were to walk into a domestic dispute, that everybody is
their enemy,
too insane and too crazy and too unstable. And so they will always go for the weaker person to diffuse the situation. I'm not making an excuse for cops by any means, but what they do is they look at the situation as volatile. Everybody's volatile. The kids are volatile. The wife is volatile, or the girlfriend or the boyfriend or the husband are volatile. So they go for the person that they feel can diffuse the volatility the quickest, and that would be to go after the woman.
Well, so
if you go after the man, sometimes you have the woman who
Right.
has a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. No, don't arrest the person that just gave me 2 black eyes and broke my arm. No, don't do that.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. But here's the other
So-
thing too is
Whereas a man will say, yeah, go ahead and take her away.
well, okay,
Crazy
but
bitch,
here's the
you
other
know?
thing. Instead of taking her to a shelter and getting her out of the harm's way, which would be, that would be admirable if the cops did that, right? No, they took her to jail.
They took her to jail. Exactly.
Right.
And then she went to a shelter.
Right,
the
and
next day.
eventually went to a shelter, but she had to spend the night in prison.
So
which is
this
just
was her
bullshit.
very
Now
first.
she has a hearing to deal with.
Exactly. This is her very first experience with Pittsburgh. And I hope she has the presence of mind to call. And if I'm around and in town when she does have the hearing, I will be there for her. I've done it for others. People have done it for me. I have no problem. I don't know her. I know her name, her first name, and that's all. But, I just wanted to talk about this story about how women need to stick together. And I did tell her that. I said, women really need to stick together. Because I really do feel that there is a 360 attack on women through the deployment of the vaccines, because it's sterilizing women. I have a friend who had to have an emergency hysterectomy basically after taking her shots.
No, they're supposed to do that. They're supposed to,
and all
feel
of
the
her
way
all
they
of
do.
her friends, all of her nice woke little friends were saying things like, no, it's totally normal to feel like you're dying on the inside, literally. Like that's what they were telling her. That means it's working, they said.
It's working
in her
all right.
news feed, and I took screen captures of that too on her social media news feed.
Yeah, it works all right. It's
So-
working on killing you.
So I feel like there's this big 360 attack on women, obviously medically or physically, also emotionally. Women go through all sorts of issues. But basically, the attacks I've received on social media because of who I am are more from women than they are from men. So women go against each other as well. So not only do you have big pharma going after women, but then you have women going after women.
And then there's a lot of misogyny on, like, say, Twitter, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, there is a lot of misogyny on Twitter where you get these assets who have
emphasis on ass.
Where they have like maybe 500,000 followers, 100,000 followers, and they will put up these pictures of women and they'll be like, hot or not? Would you do her or not? I mean, it's very disgusting. And I was like, wow, I thought we had moved past this. I thought we had evolved.
Right. No.
So it's this segues us into our Barbie conversation.
And so yet at the same time, we have a situation, we have a text that comes out, a movie that celebrates women.
Right.
But it not only celebrates women, I think it also celebrates creativity and individual autonomy and individual freedoms and whatnot. But
yeah.
So talk about the movie a little bit.
So first of all, the movie is very feminist, and in the traditional sense of the word.
Right.
And another thing about the movie, which I found really interesting, is sort of this: as I armchair evaluate people's reactions to me announcing that I went and saw the movie with my husband, how many people have attacked us just for seeing the movie?
Right.
That's interesting.
Right.
Like, why are you attacking us? Somebody even, I think, blocked you and then unblocked you after you had announced that you had seen the movie with me. You made a little joke about it being, like it's a Barbie world, because I'm blonde and sometimes I might paint my nails. Oh my God,
Right.
So it's like, why are you attacking us for seeing the movie? Is it because you think that the movie is all about selling a toy? Like, there are movies like that, but this one wasn't like that.
I think that was people's initial reaction, that they thought that the movie was about that. And I don't think that there's been a lot said about the other aspects of this movie that are just in the movie, that are inherent in the movie. It's marketed as a summer, fluffy movie. It's marketed as, the Barbie movie, and it's all pink, and all the emphasis has been on all the people showing up to watch the movie that are dressed in pink and blah, 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 right? It's all the fluffy shit. And that's what I think people are reacting to.
Right.
They're, on one hand, they're reacting to the very thing, this projection, right? It's like they're reacting to the very things that they still support, like consumers' lifestyle and global capitalism taking over, our cultural value and or whatever, our cultural freedoms and imposing, a narrative,
a
consumer narrative and whatever kind of narrative on us. And the movie actually talks about that a little bit.
Right. It does.
And so it responds to that.
Right. It's very, it's like self-aware.
Yeah.
Right. And there isn't a lot of self-awareness in the world right now. I can guarantee you just about everybody you're related to is not self-aware. They haven't gone through the appropriate shadow work and become self-aware. So let's talk about the movie a little bit. First of all, the basics. It's the highest grossing movie of all time that was made by a female movie director. So Greta Gerwig is the writer and the director. And it's the highest grossing movie that was ever directed by a female in the history of Hollywood. Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie, she jokingly said prior to filming and all this that it was going to reach $1 billion because who doesn't love Barbie kind of thing. And she was kind of joking, and sure enough, it went past $1 billion. Wow. And she's like, wow. So it pays homage or gives a nod to feminism, in the very real sense of what you would think feminism would be, which is that it's okay to be whatever you want as a woman, even if it's mediocre.
Right. Yeah, I love that aspect to it.
Yeah. So you said some things too.
Yeah. So as we were driving home, I would kind of jokingly said, well, because I'm a deliberative thinker, so it takes me a bit to think about things and mull it over. And I was joking. We were almost home, and I said, well, it's sort of like it's a cross between existential philosophy, post-structuralist theory, cultural theory, and feminism.
Right. It's a nice intersection of all those things.
And as I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, it actually is, because I looked up some, because I haven't talked about or thought about post-structuralism for a long time. And I went back and looked it up and I was like, well, damn, this actually does kind of work. So just a quick Wikipedia entry, they're talking about Roland Barthes, who wrote The Death of the Author in the late 60s. And you see that because there are, in the movie itself, there are multiple Barbies, right? So there is no, and I'll get into that. There's something he also comes up with.
Oh, by the way, spoiler alerts here. Okay. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to, maybe push mute or something, because we are going to talk about it.
Yeah, we are going to talk about
specific things in the movie.
He talks about meta language, about concepts, meaning, and like symbols rather than grammar, having meaning, Yes. Okay. So
there was a lot of that.
There was a lot of that in the movie, and it was very self-referential, which is also very, post-modern, post-structuralist kind of thing. But like the product line of Barbie, you have multiple types of Barbies, right? Some of these are prescribed, right? So Dr. Barbie and astronaut Barbie and lawyer Barbie. And they even had, the president who was
President
Barbie. and they had, Nobel Prize winning Barbie and stuff. But our main character was stereotypical Barbie,
right?
Which, interestingly enough, stereotypical Barbie is kind of a blank slate. She can be anything you want her to be. You don't have to have Madam President Barbie. You can just make stereotypical Barbie Madam President, because what it comes down to is that these prescribed Barbies that are out there are being pushed to you by the corporation, and Mattel Corporation is integral in the storyline, right? And what's his name? Who played the CEO?
Right. Bill or why am I?
I'm blanking on his name.
Everybody loves them.
I like him too.
Will Ferrell.
Okay,
Right.
Will Ferrell does a good job. Here they are mouthing this idea of, we're solving the problems of the world and giving voice to women and saying that they can be anything they want, and so we've solved those issues and that's the way that Barbie Land or Barbie World or whatever it's called,
Barbie
Land operates. That they've solved all the issues, and so it's coming at it from a very corporate language, corporate idea of like how you solve the world, right? And you do it. And very interestingly enough, this movie does not touch on wokeness or identity politics
at all.
If it does, it's on a very surface level. Like you have a couple scenes where you have wheelchair Barbie
just
and,
dancing
and body positive Barbie
just dancing
shows
at a
up,
party,
right?
And it's not like they have a big sign that says, "I am wheelchair Barbie, respect me." No, she's just dancing.
She's just
in
dancing,
her wheelchair,
right, in her wheelchair,
you know?
right? So
same with body positive Barbie.
So it's interesting how they walk that tightrope. So they're criticizing the idea of how corporations and culture that comes out of that, especially consumerist culture, comes out of that and prescribes how you engage with the world, how you think about being creative and your creativity. They actually talk about creativity. The narrator actually says, Barbie doesn't actually go down the stairs. You take Barbie and you place her in the car. You place her on the ground. You place her on the pool.
Right.
And so they show, in physical, the Barbie character, stereotypical Barbie, floats down to the ground from her second floor in her Barbie dream house.
Right. Into her dream car.
So I love that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's about imagination. It's about creativity. And so stereotypical Barbie is the blank slate. She can be anything you want her to be. And that's why she was the main character. Now, the other important character was Weird Barbie.
Yeah. So I like Weird Barbie because Weird Barbie, like JP reminded me, she had the coolest house. And whenever there was a problem in Barbie Land, everybody said, well, you have to go to Weird Barbie and get the answer. Because Weird Barbie was like the sage. She was like the like the wisest person in the room.
Right.
And so Weird Barbie is this, is this cultural reference to what we all did to our Barbies, or what many of us did to our Barbies, or what many of my friends I know did to their Barbies, where they experimented on her. So especially if you're like an art kid, suddenly you're giving Barbie some tattoos, or maybe you're like cutting her hair into a punky style, and maybe you're coloring her hair, maybe you're making her body do all sorts of crazy things, maybe you're chopping up the Barbie clothes to give her more of a funky style. So that's a lot of girls did that with Barbies. Especially Generation X, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
So the Weird Barbie was a character that was played by Kate McKinnon, who's a really funny Saturday Night Live character. She did a great job. And one thing I like about her is that she didn't have a lot of bitterness about the fact that she was marginalized. She
kind of like took it in stride, well, I'm a bohemian, I'm an artist, and it was that kind of stance that she took.
Yeah, so she was like kind of so when she was like off, she was in Barbie Land but way off and marginalized. And so all the other Barbies, which were perfect and successful, if they ever had to go to Weird Barbie's house, it was always this creepy thing, like, ooh, I'm here, and it's like super creepy.
Well, she even the main character even was like, ooh, I'm just not used to this, and blah, blah, right? And
stereotypical Barbie was like,
and along those lines, I mean, I saw how. So I mentioned corporate, right? So all those other Barbies were very corporate in the way that they acted. Like they're the careerist type people. When they get around creativity or artists, it's weird for them. Creativity for them is basically, crafting.
Right. Is like like crafting.
As opposed to like, thinking more deeply about things and responding to it and
expressing it.
Right, exactly. Whereas Weird Barbie was, and so they referred to her as Weird Barbie, not just behind her back, but to her face. And they apologized to her later for that, like as if that had to happen, because Weird Barbie didn't care.
Right. But that was more about them coming to terms. So as we take you through the movie, it's important to understand that Barbie, stereotypical Barbie, goes through an existential crisis. She starts having thoughts that don't match with what she had always, she always had a beautiful, perfect life. And suddenly, and what it was is that it was basically her handler's mother, the girl who was given a Barbie and then didn't really care about the Barbies, but it was the mother that really cared about the Barbie the Barbie dolls, and it was the mother who was having an existential crisis and getting into some dark spaces. And so Barbie, the doll made to life in this movie, was experiencing that existential crisis, and so had to go to Weird Barbie to
find out what was
find
going
out
on.
what was going on and to fix it. And so she goes into this adventure in the real world where she discovers that the real world is full of flaws, it's inconsistent, it's very hypocritical, and it's very patriarchal. And Ken, who
tags along
without permission to go to the real world, develops this idea that he wants to be the patriarch now,
he adopts patriarchy as a mode of living, right?
Exactly. He adopts patriarchy. He takes it back to Barbie land, takes over, and turns it into Kendom.
Right. Or bro land.
Yeah, it's super bro. And all the Barbies went from being doctors and writers and scholars and scientists and wonderful things. And even just, regular Barbies, they went to being like sex objects, kind of, but not in a very like disgusting way.
Well, that's something that you bring up. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I was just thinking about with like the whole interactions of the characters, like Barbie and Ken, right? So there's one scene where before a lot of this stuff started happening, before she had her existential crisis, he's like, "Can I stay over?" And she's like, "Well, no." And she's like, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know."
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. And when they kiss, because little girls don't exactly, children don't exactly know what goes on in adult relationships. They mimic to a certain degree, like they don't actually kiss.
Right.
They come close to kissing, but then they back away and they're like, "Oh, okay, that was nice."
Yeah.
Right. Also, just like a little girl,
right.
like a very young little girl, right, would understand, okay, yeah, there's kissing, but that's kind of also icky. And so she does close to it and like imitates what she knows, what she sees, right?
Exactly.
Based on what she sees, right?
I thought it was funny because in that very scene, she goes, at the end of it, basically, she goes, "You can go now."
Yeah.
So this is personal to me and JP.
This is an internal or a in joke with us. Right?
Yeah. And I was shocked because the way that Margot Robbie delivered the line, it was almost as if she would had somehow just
got into our heads
or got into our lives. I have a niece who did that to me. I do it to people, I do it to JP. I do it to people you can go now.
Yeah, well, basically, your niece is a mini you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But it was funny because we were visiting her brother and sister-in-law and their kids, and our niece had at that time had her own man cave.
Oh my God, that's right. I've never seen a 6-year-old with a man cave, or a 4-year-old, or whatever.
She was 4 years old. Yeah, I think
whatever she was at the
young.
time.
Yeah, and she had her own.
She's much older now.
Yeah, she had her own little Barca lounge, like to her size, and she had her sippy cup, and she was watching her stories, her video on the big screen in the garage in her man cave, which was converted to this sort of fun place, right?
Right, and her blanket and her drink and her feet up on the Barca lounger, watching Princess Sophia.
Or whatever.
And I walk in and I'm like, "Bryn, what are you doing?" And she's like, "You can go now."
Right, exactly. She told us we could go away. Yeah. So in the same way that Barbie said to Ken.
Right. This exact same inflection. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. So so what happens is, she has this existential crisis. She goes into the real world to find the doll, because Weird Barbie says the only way that find the person that owns her, because Weird Barbie says the only way that you can fix your existential crisis
is to find the little girl who plays with you.
And because she's going through something, and it turns out it wasn't the little girl, it was the little girl's mother that was going through something, who is America Ferrera, who has one of the best women empowering monologues you will ever hear on screen.
It was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was amazingly delivered. And obviously, I believe, so whenever you have a movie, when you start the process of writing, there's always a monologue, right? There's always something that really, really comes out of you that comes from this really pure place. So I believe that Barbie the movie came from that monologue, and that it was around that monologue that we have the Barbie movie.
Yeah, that was
So,
basically her thesis statement, right?
yeah, it
You know?
was.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do a movie, and here's why you should fund it, and here it is. And it was that monologue. So ultimately what happens at the end of the day is that they come back to, you know,
Barbie Land
only to find that it had been, you know, taken over by the patriarchy and turned into Ken Land, and everybody was a bro, and it was really awful. So they did a series of tactical, like, sort of warfare tactics in order to get Barbie Land back. But they did say, we don't want the old Barbie Land. We want something different than what we had before. And we certainly don't want Kendom, because it's all bros. What we want is something different.
Mhm.
And so I thought that was really, really telling. That was such a great thing to hear, because I think it's what we've all been saying about, you know, as the country crashes and burns down around us, and we're all just sort of like in a stupor, like, what is going on? Every day it's something different. We're like, well, we know that we don't want it the way it was before, with capitalism run amok. You know,
right?
We want something different.
Well, and they used the A word, Julie. They said autonomy.
Right. They used autonomy in Barbie Land.
Yeah.
In the movie. And also another thing I noticed is that when the bros were taking over, all the Ken dolls became bros and turned it into Kendom. All of the Barbies who were so self-empowered and self-actualized at one point suddenly became brainwashed, and they changed their behavior. And they did things, listen closely, they did things that they would normally never do. They were convinced through the patriarchy to do a thing that would actually hurt them in the long run. And so they became brainwashed. Does that sound familiar to any of you out there? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Maybe refer to the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
know?
You know, has anybody heard the story about something that maybe happened in 2020 where people who did a thing that they would normally never do were suddenly doing the thing, and they were convinced to do it, but for some reason you weren't? So something that Weird Barbie said, she said to stereotypical Barbie, she said, everybody else was brainwashed except you.
Yeah, I don't understand why you weren't brainwashed.
Why weren't you brainwashed?
And by the way, Weird Barbie was not brainwashed either.
Weird Barbie was not brainwashed either.
Because she had the wisdom of experience and other things, right? So
what the non-brainwashed Barbies did, which is Weird Barbie, stereotypical Barbie,
and Ken's buddy,
Alan.
Alan wasn't brainwashed because
Alan wasn't brainwashed.
Alan went to Barbie, stereotypical Barbie, and he says, I want to get out of here, because stereotypical Barbie was trying to get out of Barbie Land.
Right.
And
Alan's like, I want to get out of here. I hate Kendom.
You know, it's like, if I have to sit on another leather couch, he says,
right.
Right.
So, you know what they did is they created
they found a way to break the brainwashing.
Which is interesting. So a lot of us are like in this position where we're like, okay, well, they're brainwashed and we're not, and there's nothing we can do.
Right.
But I found what was interesting about the movie is that the non-brainwashed characters said, we have to do a thing. We have to do something to reprogram them. And they did. They captured them and they held them in like a pink truck, like kind of like a black site.
They were pink-sided.
And they said, you know, do you remember who you are? You are a naturalist. You don't go out and get shot full of toxins. You're somebody who uses homeopathy, or, you know what I'm saying? You see what I'm naturopathic methods. What are you doing going to get a shot every 5 minutes? That kind of thing.
Right.
You know, and they clicked, you know, and they clicked back into who they really were. And it spread, you know,
and so they just did it one at a time.
They did it one
at a time.
And then
they used the non brainwashed Barbies, the ones that were reprogrammed, reprogrammed Barbies, to help with the effort. So
The
they got
next.
so that it didn't take as long, right?
Right, exactly.
So it was sort of
once
like
all of the brainwashed Barbies were back to their, self, or even better than they were before, they decided the next tactic, which was to weaken the Kens or the bros that had taken over Barbie Land. And so what they did is they created acts of confusion and jealousy within the patriarchy. Listen, you guys, this movie is not what you think it is. This movie is so much more. You have to go see it. This movie. So they created a situation that caused petty jealousy and weakness within the patriarchy. And, they did it through flirtation. They did it through making empty promises. They did it, all the things that are done to us. They switched it around on the people who had the power. So we can learn a lot from this, I think, and what I found interesting on social media is that when I went into all of this, we got attacked. So it tells me that there's something there and that people have been brainwashed to believe something about the Barbie movie that isn't true. And, they've been sort of trained to go into that reaction to just attack people who go see a movie or whatever, so I really, 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 truly enjoyed it. I found that the guy who runs the theater that we went to, I found him so charming. He was like, "Are you here to see the Barbie movie?" I was like, "Yes." And so he said, "Okay, you got 5 minutes before it starts." And he was so like into it. And he was so excited because his business was doing well because so many people were in the theater.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not sure we've ever seen it that crowded. Maybe for
when
one
we
other
went to
movie.
See the Indiana Jones movie, it was pretty crowded, but it was all people your age and above.
Right, I know. It was all Generation X
and boomers
and older.
Yeah,
right. Seeing seeing
there
the
were no
newest.
young people in that theater.
Yeah, because even my stylist, who's I think 10 years younger than me, I said, yeah, this was quite a few months ago, actually, or a couple months ago. I said, yeah, I'm going to go check out the new Indiana Jones movie. And she's who the weather? Like, what's Indiana Jones? I'm like, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. You've never heard? She's like, no, I never heard of it.
Yeah.
Wow. I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with
and
this?
I was surprised at all the old people that were in there. And it's like, well, dude, you're 60. And we were some of the younger folks in there.
Wow. Yeah. Super weird.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, we talked a lot about it, but now let's talk about the indictments against Trump and what that means, and kind of walk through it a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to do that? And then we can end, because we've been at this for an hour. This will probably take another 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Do you need more to drink?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
More cocktail, maybe more alcohol, but no, I have water here. I'm good.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Well, there are 4 counts that were brought against Trump on August 1st.
Before you go into those, I want to talk about the phenomenon of the idea of Indictment Day.
Okay.
And I just want to touch on this because I don't want to go into it too much. But Naomi Wolf wrote a really great piece on her site.
Mm-hmm.
I am normally not a huge fan of Naomi Wolf because I disagree with her on some of her analysis, and she tends to still go back to her sort of liberal kind of positions on things. But this was a very good article, and it touched on some things that Julie and I have experienced, and I experienced in 2000. She talks about 2000 in the election then, and the contested election in 2000, and I was a Green Party supporter, so I got shit from the Democrats who were getting shit from the Republicans, where this whole thing that's going on right now was going on then, and I think it was a test case that allowed for what's going on now. So 24 years ago, this thing happens, and it's now back. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hypocritical because so much of what is going on right now with this contested election was made to contest it. It was given legitimacy back in 2000,
right? But
for some reason, to contest this election is given criminality.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong here.
So what is actually legal has become criminalized.
Exactly. So the first count is count 1, which is the conspiracy to defraud the U.S., which is 19 U.S. Section 371, USC Section 371. So it claims that he made knowingly false claims, and that if he's found not guilty, then what it's doing is it's setting the precedent that others who may be charged with this will, with this conspiracy to defraud the U.S. public, will not see justice. So I don't believe that count 1 is going to take, because if it did, then that means that somebody like Javier Becerra, Alex Azar, the former, NIH Secretary of Health, even Anthony Fauci, who was running NIAID, all of these people were knowingly committing a conspiracy to defraud the United States, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And so if you make this count stick with Trump, then you're going to have to go and use it to go after everybody.
Well, you'll be able to.
You'll be able to. It'll set the precedence.
Right. Especially this whole death penalty aspect.
Right. So we're going to come to that next. That's actually the 4th count. So what it is that, others who may be charged with this conspiracy to defraud the United States, if Trump is not found guilty of this first count, or if it's just, dismissed or whatever, then it will be dismissed for other people as well. So it's good and bad. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. For instance, the DOD made knowingly false claims about the, quote, vaccine, which they themselves had said in paperwork and in contracts and in documentation was a prototype or a gene therapy or modified a program of a bioweapon, right?
And yet it was marketed as
a vaccine.
Right.
And so they knowingly conspired to defraud the United States. So you could go after certain individuals in the various, military sector and in the contractors that they hired to deploy the bioweapon. You could go after
or political appointees,
Becerra, or you could go after the CDC, who knowingly, and we know for a fact,
and Pfizer executives,
and we know for a fact that Rochelle Walensky, who is the former director of the CDC, we know for a fact that she had information that the prophylactic gene therapy, the pathogen making bioweapon, whatever you want to call it, but they're calling it a vaccine. She had information in front of her that said it's dangerous especially to pregnant women. And then the very next day, she's out in front of the TV cameras and on record as saying pregnant women need to get vaccinated. So she knowingly defrauded the United States. They could lobby this account, this conspiracy to defraud the U.S., 19 U.S.C. Section 371. They could throw it at her and it would stick, but they're going to throw it at Trump. It's not going to stick, and there's your precedent.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
that's the whole point of this
this indictment thing is
right.
to throw things at him so that it sets a precedent that it doesn't stick.
But at the same time, it's going to open things up to take away civil rights and question constitutional protections of freedom of speech, freedom to gather, freedom of whatever else is in the Bill of Rights.
Right. So this first count that they're throwing against Trump, it also hedges into thought crime. This is what they're saying. Despite your continued shouting, Trump, about election fraud, the fact that you go on interviews and every chance you get, whenever you're in front of the camera, whenever you're giving interviews, no matter where you are in life, you're just going on and on and on and on about how the election was stolen from you, how there was fraud and shenanigans and all this stuff. Despite all of this, we don't really believe that you believe that there was fraud. We believe that you're only saying these things to incite some kind of riotous panic or some kind of danger. So that's actually going after someone for a supposed thought. That's criminalizing them for an alleged thought crime. That's like saying, no, you're not thinking that. That's not what you really believe. I'll tell you what you believe. And because I've imposed this thought in your head, and I'm going to assume that that's what you believe, I can now make it a crime. You see? So this is going into thought crime as well, this conspiracy to defraud.
And this is a repeat of the COVID narrative, right?
Totally.
You
totally.
know, and so what I was saying to Julie the other day, I kind of summarized it is, you know, Trump is a token to use to basically take away our civil liberties and constitutional protections. Now, you know, we believe that we're all, you know, Julie and I believe that, you know, we don't need to have those protections. We are free. We have the liberty to do whatever we want, you know, within reason, of course. But that doesn't matter because we live in this world where, you know, the legal precedents and structures and constitutions and flags and, you know, states and, you know, power and money all exist. And so we have to work within the context of that world. And so that's why we are able to, you know, it's one of the reasons I feel like we are able to be an outsider, criticize this thing, even though we don't believe that the core of this exactly, you know, should be a question in the first place.
Right. Exactly. You don't need a piece of paper or a flag to tell you you're free.
Right. But this is a very nasty thing because they're basically working to take away your rights. And this is more about the people they arrested on January 6th than it is about Trump.
Right. And also it will set a precedent for the future. Counts 2 and 3 are sort of are the same. They intertwine. So I'll just say that it's 18 USC section 1512, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. So basically what they're saying is that by investigating the vote count, by filing lawsuits, by using the very system that exists in order to support your accusation of, you know, electoral fraud or some kind of shenanigans, they're saying that by doing that, you are conspiring to obstruct the official proceeding, which was the vote itself. And so you're trying to undermine like American democracy by using the very system that exists. And, you know, this is really hypocritical because does no one remember what happened in 2000? There were tons of lawsuits that were filed in various states for the fraudulent election then. I believe there's even something called Gore v. Biden. You know, so now there's Gore v. Bush.
Right. Yeah.
Now there's something called Trump v. Biden. You know, why is it okay? And for, you know, the Gore campaign to file a lawsuit to investigate, and that's all these lawsuits are about, is to simply investigate election fraud and to say, I don't think that these are the right numbers. I don't think this is the right outcome, at least for these particular states. Let's open up, you know, the paper ballots. Let's take a look at them. And in order to do that, you need a judge to approve of that. So you have to go through the lawsuit bullshit in order to get that done. So why is it okay for Al Gore to do it against Bush, but it's not okay for Trump to do it against Biden?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, what's with the hypocrisy?
And going back to that Naomi Wolf article, apparently both sides launched investigative lawsuits. Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah,
you know, highly recommend this article. It's just incredible what they're getting away with. Okay, so the very last count, which is count 4, because again, I think this conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. And what they're saying is, and I'll repeat myself, is they're saying, hey, look, you conspired to obstruct the official vote. And so we're going to, you know, lobby this charge against you, or we're going to throw this charge against you. And you're doing, and how we know that you're doing it is because you are using the justice system to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you're using the justice system to prove that that this election was undermined somehow.
Right. So this
and so how dare you
right.
disrupt our constitutionally protected rights?
So this
You know?
count is basically gaslighting.
Total gaslighting. So that's counts 2 and 3 together, in my opinion. So, and then section 4 is 18 USC section 241, or count 4. Count 4 is 18 US Code section 241, conspiracy against rights. And so that includes language that says if you're found guilty of the conspiracy against the rights of American citizens somehow, and someone dies from that conspiracy against the rights of American citizens, then the person who is found guilty of conspiring against the rights of American citizens could potentially face the death penalty. So this is really like, suddenly this opened up a whole new like level of it becomes malevolent.
Right.
And some popular podcasters have even said that this is a legalized assassination attempt against a campaign, somebody who's running a campaign against the current sitting president. This is what a banana republic looks like when you enter this fourth count. That's what a banana republic looks like. So in my opinion, the whole indictment process itself, just the fact that it exists against a current applicant for the job, is considered a banana republic. But this is the kind of shit you get in China or North Korea, where you've got, a sitting leader, a sitting powerful leader saying, oh, I'm just going to accuse my competitor of, all this stuff, and then I'm just going to sentence him to death.
Right. Well, and that's what you mentioned, Banana Republic. It's not the corporate clothing company. It's the countries like Nicaragua and Honduras and those Central American countries who were basically run by dictators, dictators that were set up by the U.S. government and the Marines, the U.S. Marines, and so they would basically take out their opponents during an election. So hey, we're going to have democracy, we're going to have an election, and then the dictator turns around and either throws the opponent in jail or kills them.
Yeah, that's what you've got with this. And so I think one of the reasons that's turned me off on social media so much is that I'm not seeing anybody really talk about that. They're getting into the weeds of nonsense and gibberish. Or B, the people who are on social media are probably some sort of assets or useful idiots and just excited and cheering from the rooftops about these counts against Trump. And when what it really signifies is that is something, and it's not that we're almost there, it's that it's happening and it's here. There is no this. I don't even know how to say it. This isn't even a republic.
Yeah, no.
Let alone a democracy when you have something like this, especially these 4 counts. Now, I want to talk about Agent Smith for a minute. That's what I've been calling him, Jack Smith. Jack Smith is appointed as a special counsel by the Attorney General Merrick Garland, who was appointed by Biden himself. Okay, so this feels very much like Biden going after Trump the way that, Xi would go after any incoming Chinese president, or the way that Kim Jong-un would go after anybody in North Korea who would want to take his position.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then on top of all of that, they brought this guy in because the guy who hired him, what was his name again?
Merrick Garland,
would not go after Trump for the actual thing that people are talking about. So the media is going on and on and on and on about this incitement to commit incitement of what is it? The incitement of the thing that took place on
January 6th
right?
To commit an insurrection.
An insurrection. Thank you. That's the word. There's another I word out there that I'm looking for. An insurrection, right? That's what the media keeps going on about. That's what the liberals keep going on about. That's their favorite trope, right?
But the actual prosecutors are not even going there.
Right, because because Merrick, is that his name? What
Merrick Garland.
Garland did a study. They went through the process and they discovered that, and they wrote a report that they could not win that case. The impeachment trial that Trump went through also touched on this, or was part about this insurrection, and they didn't come to a conclusion on that either. They did not convict him on those charges then either. So why is it that they're doing these other things and not charging him with the actual thing that everybody's upset about, or apparently upset about?
Mm-hmm.
It's because he didn't do it.
Right.
And it's also because, and I understand that's kind of faulty logic, but at the same time, if you look at it, it's like, well, why is it they're not doing something? It's because they know they can't win. So, he most likely, and I don't think he was behind all that. That was something that the Democratic Party put into play. Right. Those insurrectionists that we saw on camera were not,
right,
Trump supporters.
Right. One was theater, and it was pre-filmed, and then it was released as live footage, and then the other one was just
it was a protest rally,
or just a celebration of Trump. I don't even think it was a protest. It was just basically Trump, and
Trump supporters gathering together.
I even watched Trump, prior to January 6th, say, "I'm looking forward to seeing everybody peacefully, getting together. I was happy to be your president, and I feel the love of my people, la la la." That kind of stuff. It was a very sweet, very peaceful. Like, there was nothing saying, get your guns and and all this stuff. Exactly. There was none of that. Right. Okay, so
let's just make it clear too, and we've said this before, but I
feel
like I have to say it again.
Jesus.
We are not Trump supporters. We do not support any president. Let alone this particular one.
People are lied about. I don't care.
I
if
agree.
It's Trump or you or me or
and the
whatever.
fact that they're using this, using Trump as a means to
go after people.
Yeah, go after. Yeah, and basically create an environment where thought crime is legal.
Exactly.
Or illegal. I mean, thought crime is a thing, right?
So yeah, and so very quickly before we end, I want to just talk a little bit about Jack Smith, Agent Smith. He is definitely, they pulled out the big guns for this one. His background, everybody lifts him up as he's like the guy that wins like these really tremendously scary cases. Let's see, I'm just going through the list here. So he most recently served since 2018 as the chief prosecutor in the International Criminal Court, or the ICC, in The Hague, where he was tasked with investigating and adjudicating war crimes in Kosovo. So prior to his time in The Hague, he served in multiple roles with the Justice Department, including as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of New York and his first assistant U.S. attorney for the Middle District of Tennessee. In 2010, he took the helm of the department's Public Integrity Unit, where he oversaw high-profile cases that often targeted elected officials. He was, let's see. Okay, so during his time in the Eastern District in New York, he prosecuted a man named Ronell Wilson for murdering 2 New York Police Department detectives, and in 2006 became the first person sentenced to death since the reinstatement of the federal death penalty in 1988. He's the second special counsel to investigate Trump after former FBI Director Robert Mueller probed the Trump's campaign's ties to the Russian government during the 2016. So this guy also regarding those war crimes that were taking place in Kosovo, he successfully was able to prosecute and sentence, and because of his prosecution, the judge sentenced, this war criminal who was doing like international war crimes to sentenced him to jail or to death even maybe. Mm-hmm. So this guy is not...
He's a heavy hitter.
He is, yeah. He's not just some, lawyer who's like, just dancing a gig for
Right.
everybody for a game. No, like, and he's so reserved and so held back when he gives his statements. Those are the people you want to watch out for, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Right.
It's the ones that are all splashy and give a lot of interviews and go on and on about stuff. But Smith is doing very little of that. And so that's what concerns me. It's like they really brought out this heavy hitter.
Mm-hmm. To do this,
to
yeah.
do- I mean,
But
this
the
is-
thing at the same time, though, Julie, I really feel that this is a setup to not convict Trump.
Yeah, but
So these legal precedents, these creative legal precedents, because this is what it's been called, like these unique or I forget the word that they
Right.
used.
that is the general consensus.
right.
Everybody out there is saying the
Right.
same thing. This is like never been done
Right.
before.
They're unique, and they're a creative way of like working with the law to come up with a way to convict the former president, right, on these charges. And I really feel like the way that they were written and the way that they're set up is it's not about Trump, and it's going to they're going to deliberately fail
Mhm.
so that it protects those people
Who should be
yeah,
tried
exactly,
for war crimes.
exactly.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it opens up the public discourse into the ideas of thought crime, into the ideas of you are an insurrectionist if you do these
if
things.
you think a thing.
If you think a thing, then
Right.
you are an insurrectionist, or you are it supports the whole denier messaging, right? You're a this denier, you're a that denier. Oh, you don't believe in science. Oh, you don't believe in the Holocaust. Oh, you don't believe in climate change. Oh, you don't believe in whatever. And that makes you a criminal,
Right.
right? Doesn't matter what it is, it makes you a criminal. And that's not a good thing.
You've got, major firms saying things like, if this case against Trump is prosecutable, Jack Smith will do it. And he also physically, he's intimidating. He competes in Ironman, swim, cycle, run, triathlon races. And he's a dogged investigator who is open-minded and unafraid to pursue the truth. All that means is that he will break the truth. He will break apart any lies and any truth to make it seem like it's the truth in order to criminalize thought, in order to criminalize any kind of innocent action. He's just, he's not somebody you want to fuck with. Like, they really brought out the big guns for
Right.
for these counts.
But at the same time, though, I feel like this is all hype. This is a theater, right? Now, if I'm wrong, then it opens up all the criminals from the COVID narrative to be indicted. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know.
No, it's not. I don't think so. Most recently, so he returned to war crimes cases in The Hague, winning the conviction of Salim Mustafa, a former Kosovo Liberation Army commander who ran a prison where torture took place during the 98-99 independence conflict with Serbia. So, why are they using a guy like this to go after basically a comedian,
right,
who owns a few hotels,
right,
and who happened to be president,
right? A Casco comedian, right?
It's like big fucking, like, why would you do that? Why don't you, they could use Smith to go after somebody like Fauci, or to go after somebody like, Becerra or Azar, or
they're using, but see, again, Trump is a token. They're using him to go after him,
right,
so that they don't have to go after those other people,
right? Because those people are too embedded in the corporate stakes,
right?
That are, so much of our country is financially dependent on those stakeholders. And if you start chopping off the heads at the top of those stakeholders, then the whole thing falls apart.
Right.
And
right.
The other thing, really too, sad.
The other thing too is the timing of this.
Of course,
that also falls into the sort of like the idea of the banana republic, where it's like we're doing a campaign and they're doing this instead of doing it 2 years earlier. The other thing too is that what happened the exact same day as the Trump indictment? Something
Oh,
to do with the
Biden.
the
Yeah.
Biden family cartel.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? On the very same day that, that these 4 counts were, thrown against Trump, there was some information that came out about the Biden Hunter, especially Hunter Biden, and that I can find it. I just have to scroll back and look for it.
I know it just happened Friday, but it feels like it happened weeks ago.
Oh my God, right? It was August 1st. Yeah, just give me a minute here. So, I mean, and we could talk about Devin Archer.
Yeah, right. So that was the psychopath that we were talking about a bit when Sean brought up psychopaths and narcissists.
So, right. So the current president, that would be Biden, is a patriarch of a crime syndicate. This story that broke yesterday is the biggest political story of your lifetime. So why aren't you in the streets over it? And this is what it is. Hunter Biden told his then business partner, Devin Archer, to purchase a burner phone just 3 days before a meeting was set up with Vice President Joe Biden at the White House. Who buys a burner phone unless they're planning on doing something illegal? Weeks later, after the White House meeting, it was announced that Devin Archer and Hunter Biden would be joining the board at Ukrainian gas company Burisma. And then the same day that this information was dropped was the same day that Agent Smith, threw these 4 counts against Trump. So it's acting as cover for the fact that we are in a war in Ukraine over a business deal that Devin Archer and Hunter Biden had with Vice President Joe Biden being fully aware of it. And so the Bidens themselves, just the Bidens, are financially benefiting from this Ukraine intervention nonsense. Okay. Just like Cheney benefited because of Halliburton with Iraq. Right. So who was also vice president,
Right.
So the Biden family is a crime family. It's a crime syndicate. This information that was finally made public, and the public became aware of it, was so damning. Like, your current sitting president is leading a crime family. Like, that's what's going on. And the whole country should be looking at that. But instead, you've got Merrick Garland acting on behalf of Joe Biden, sending out Agent Smith to throw 4 counts against Trump, one which includes the possibility for the death penalty should he be found guilty of that 4th count. Like, this is insane, people. This is insane. The biggest, shakeup in your life on the political stage, and nobody seems to get it.
This is bigger than Watergate, Iran-Contra Gate, and any other gate you want to throw at combined.
Right.
And yet it's not being talked about by the mainstream media. Why? Well, because it's so damning.
It's so damning.
Yeah. It exposes so much corruption within the state. It's not even funny, right? And yet they're throwing these silly, they're not silly, these trumped up charges against a former president, right?
The conspiracy to defraud, the conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, and then the conspiracy against rights. Like, this is all just these are all things that were done in 2000.
Yeah, well, nothing new with all presidents were similar. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Reagan got away with the Iran-Contra affair with just not even a slap on the wrist.
That just shows you, right?
Yeah, and so this thing that they're doing against Trump is clearly, it's not, again, it's not Trump, it's us.
Right.
It's about taking away rights, taking away protected freedoms and rights, and it's off the chart fascist, hands down, right?
Exactly. Well, it's the Banana Republic.
Right. Now, something else that I want you all to go watch, just for entertainment value, but it's also very interesting, is this Tucker Carlson interview on Twitter, Tucker on Twitter, with Devin Archer, because he interviews him about Hunter Biden and all this stuff. And
all the things that came out on the same day that the counts were, against Trump, Devin Archer is named all over the place.
Right.
So he's sweating bullets.
Right. He sure is. And he's also being, at the same time, though, and I feel bad for him, he is being threatened, by people
probably
out there.
The Biden administration.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
In a roundabout way.
If he dies,
yeah,
it'll point, I don't think he's going to die because it'll point directly
it'll be
to
too obvious.
Right, exactly. Right. They will not be able to Clintonize him, right? They will not they will not be able to Clinton him. Right. He's too tied in. But Sean mentioned the what is it you said? I'm tired of all the psychopathic, narcissistic psychopaths. Exactly, right. Or sociopaths. So this guy, Devin Archer, he smiles too much. He's very likable. Scott Adams says, "Oh, he's very likable," and he just he bought the fucking he bought it. He bought the song and dance from Devin Archer, and I was watching that, and I'm like, this guy is a psychopath. He smiles too much. He does that thing that corporate people do when they don't want to answer a question or they don't know, or it's too damning if they say anything. So he
laughs a lot.
He laughs a lot, and he kind of goes, "Well, yeah, I don't really know. I can't really talk to that." And then there were a couple of things that he legitimately could not talk about because it was a case. So
sure.
And there were a couple of points where it was like, yeah, this guy did get fucked by being involved with. And
he admitted as such. He's like, my life would be so much better if I had never met the Bidens.
So I could have, gone on with my own corporate grift, without,
right,
and be left alone.
Instead, this particular corporate grift and this fucking crime family, this is not the Biden presidency. This is the Biden regime. This is a Biden crime syndicate. They are a crime family. Mm-hmm. So he's like, my life would be so much better had I not, gotten involved with them. So, but he does smile a lot. He does tend to laugh a lot. And he does remind me of those very polished sociopathic personality traits that you see in the corporate banking industry,
Yeah. Shauna, go back to if you can find it, our video about the Joker movie.
Yeah.
Because we kind of,
we did a question and answer.
Yeah, and we talked about how Joker was not who you think he is.
Right, and he's so that movie came out right before COVID.
Yeah,
it came out in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So if you notice, there were a lot of things right before 9/11 and right before the COVID operation. There were a lot of movies, a lot of things happening in the entertainment industry that were sort of giving you a clue
mm-hmm.
as to the next thing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway,
go check out. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go check it out.
Go check out that interview with Tucker Carlson. It's on Twitter and it's easy to find. It's about an hour. It's worth your time. There's nothing damning about it. It's just it's an interesting cultural sketch of somebody who got intertwined with a crime family without knowing it. So. And that, he got to where he was on his own through just being a psychopath and a narcissistic, asshole. He got opportunities that other people would not be able to get, even though he may have started out, as he says, in a more middle class and
small town.
Yeah, kind of environment. He was able to somehow get to Yale and use that as his stepping stone to, higher things. And, and whether that was grift or legitimate business, I can't tell the difference most of the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So, it's a sketch of a psychopath, whether he was involved with a crime syndicate known as the Biden family or not. It's a good sketch of a personality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was all we wanted to talk about.
That was everything.
And it only took 90 minutes.
Yeah. So we're really, really glad that you guys joined, and please, be patient with us as we continue to manage 2 households, move across the country, stretch ourselves so very thin, financially and with our time and energy and everything. So we really, really appreciate the support, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll even do like a live stream from the new place or something, because we're going to be there for a little while.
Yeah.
But we're not leaving right away. So,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And have a great rest of your weekend.
Okay, great. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.